Imagine this scenario: the backstage area erupts into chaos. Brock Lesnar, one of the most dominant forces in wrestling history, crosses a line so severe that law enforcement gets involved. His target? The rising superstar Obafimi. This is the kind of shocking moment that could reshape an entire wrestling narrative, and today on WWE Express, we're diving deep into what this kind of explosive confrontation would mean for the landscape of professional wrestling. But first, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We drop groundbreaking wrestling analysis multiple times a week, and you won't want to miss what we're cooking up next. Let's start with the core question that makes this scenario so compelling. Brock Lesnar has always been portrayed as a wrestler willing to bend and sometimes break the rules, but an arrest changes everything. It transforms him from an unstoppable force into someone with real legal consequences. This isn't just about a match stipulation or a championship feud anymore. We're talking about the narrative implications of a superstar whose character is built on dominance and invincibility suddenly facing something that even his physicality can't overcome: the justice system. That's a genuinely interesting place to take a character, especially one as significant as Lesnar in professional wrestling's current landscape. Now, let's talk about Obafimi, because understanding why Lesnar would target him is crucial to understanding this entire scenario. Obafimi represents everything that's exciting about the next generation of wrestling talent. He's got incredible size, surprising agility, and most importantly, he's got momentum. In professional wrestling, momentum is currency. It's what separates the mid-card from main event players. Obafimi has been climbing that ladder, and that climb naturally puts him in position to eventually cross paths with established main event talent like Lesnar. The question becomes, what if that crossing of paths turns violent in a way that forces the hand of authority? The beauty of this scenario is how it forces a complete re-evaluation of character positioning. If Lesnar's arrested for attacking Obafimi, the narrative automatically shifts. Suddenly, Lesnar isn't the inevitable force. He's the desperate veteran trying to stop the next generation before it fully arrives. He's the older predator aware that his time at the top is finite, and he's willing to cross legal boundaries to maintain his grip on relevance. That's a psychological depth to Lesnar's character that hasn't been fully explored in a long time. We've seen him as conqueror, as destroyed, as returned hero, but we haven't seen him as genuinely afraid of being replaced. For Obafimi, an incident like this would be the ultimate validation. The fact that someone of Lesnar's stature felt threatened enough to physically attack him backstage would essentially be a confirmation that Femi is the real deal. This isn't a push that Femi has to question or earn his way into. This is Lesnar, one of the most dangerous men in wrestling history, essentially confirming through his actions that Femi is a legitimate threat. From a character development standpoint, that's an incredibly powerful moment. It legitimizes Femi immediately. But here's where it gets really interesting from a storytelling perspective. An arrest creates immediate stakes that transcend wrestling programming. We're not just talking about a feud that will be settled in a match. We're talking about real consequences. Can Lesnar be allowed to compete while facing legal charges? How does this affect his reputation? How does a major wrestling company navigate the optics of featuring someone involved in such a serious incident? These aren't simple creative questions. These are complicated logistical and ethical questions that would have to be addressed in storyline. The potential for a redemption angle becomes fascinating. What if Lesnar, facing these consequences, transforms the situation into proof of his dominance in a different way? Not through physical superiority, but through overcoming adversity. Maybe he fights the charges. Maybe he comes back stronger, more focused, with something new to prove. The narrative could flip from Lesnar being threatened by the new generation into Lesnar proving that experience and determination still matter. That's a complete character reversal that honors both his history and the evolution of the product. We also have to consider the ripple effects throughout the locker room. If someone of Lesnar's magnitude can face arrest for backstage conduct, what does that mean for everyone else? Does it create a climate where the younger talent feels emboldened knowing that even the biggest names face real consequences? Or does it reinforce the idea that only the top-tier talents are protected from serious ramifications? These are the kinds of psychological elements that make wrestling storytelling compelling when done right. The Obafimi angle is particularly potent because he's positioned as a pillar of the future. He's got the size, the athleticism, and crucially, he's got the look of a main event player. A physical altercation that results in an arrest positions him as someone worth attacking, someone worth taking real risks to stop. In wrestling narrative, your opponent's size and legitimacy reflect back on you. If only jobbers attack you, you're a jobber. If Brock Lesnar considers you a threat large enough to risk legal consequences, you're legitimate. Period. The character work here opens doors in multiple directions. Does Obafimi develop a mean streak in response? Does he become paranoid about his safety? Does this incident accelerate a potential title program that might have been further down the road? The scaffolding for stories becomes almost unlimited once you establish this kind of dramatic incident. There's also the question of how this plays into the larger mythology of the company. Professional wrestling at its best tells stories about ambition, about the new generation replacing the old guard, about hunger meeting experience. This scenario encapsulates all of that. It's Lesnar's hunger to remain on top colliding with Obafimi's hunger to arrive. It's the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object, except instead of both surviving the collision, someone faces real-world consequences. What makes this scenario work from a professional wrestling storytelling standpoint is that it respects the intelligence of the audience. Fans understand kayfabe. Fans understand the difference between in-ring drama and backstage storyline. A scenario like this, where legal consequences become part of the narrative, acknowledges that wrestling exists in a world with rules and consequences beyond the competitive ones. It's the kind of sophisticated storytelling that elevates the medium. The wrestling community thrives on these kinds of speculative conversations. What if? How would that change things? What does this mean for the long-term direction? These are the conversations that keep fans engaged between programming, that build community, that make wrestling more than just the matches themselves. They're about narrative possibility and character evolution. As we think about the future of wrestling, scenarios like this remind us why the character development and storytelling matter so much. Brock Lesnar and Obafimi are both positioned to tell interesting stories in 2026 and beyond. Whether it's through a dramatic confrontation like this or through the natural progression of their respective careers, they're both important pieces of wrestling's present and future. The beauty of professional wrestling is that it can explore complex human drama through the lens of competitive combat. A moment like this, whether it were to ever actually happen or remain purely in the realm of fan imagination, illustrates why wrestling continues to captivate audiences. It's not just about the physical performances, though those matter. It's about the stories that make us care about the outcomes. This kind of scenario showcases exactly why we love professional wrestling and why conversations about where these stories go next matter so much. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to WWE Express for more in-depth wrestling analysis, character breakdowns, and speculative storytelling that celebrates everything that makes this industry incredible. We're building something special here, and your support means everything. Subscribe to WWE Express, and we'll see you next time.